All right, so how big of a threat is China to business, culture, and the world in terms of unleashing another pandemic? Why would Ayanna Pressley try and minimize that when it is such a big problem?
For her, being woke is more important than being alive. If Ayanna Pressley was president, we can only get tough with white countries. Russia, the French, who I'm kind of itching for a fight with. If you're Japan, if you're China, if you're the cartels, if you're a Muslim nation, you know what? Bring it on. We're just going to lay down because we don't want to offend anybody. Do you remember that attitude during the war on terror?
Yep.
You don't want to get too tough with these Muslims, you know, because Islamophobia, that is the real threat. So take away the trade, defense policy, take away everything. Just as you said, on COVID alone,
Yep.
they unleashed this disease that murders 1 million Americans, and you're sitting in Congress, you're like, you know what? I'd rather talk about infrastructure. I don't know who her constituents are, but I can't imagine they support that. Her constituents died from COVID-19. I think their families might want to get tough on China.
Maybe
And it might have been America that was involved in that lab. So if, you know, she's an America hater, another reason to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many questions. China obviously has a 50-year strategy for achieving global hegemony. The United States, we have a different strategy based on who's president. But what the message they're sending in Congress is, we want to protect ourselves as a nation. We want to have a policy about China that is not necessarily partisan.
I think that while I am, generally speaking, sympathetic to the squad, I like AOC a lot. I like her verve, her grit, her energy. The problem is that they get off on these tangents that are so silly. To worry about people being anti-China because of these actions that they're taking is ridiculous when you think China is the menace. It's far more threatening to the United States. Russia is under 200 million. China is 1 billion, some hundred millions. I think that China will represent our future adversary forever until something awful happens, and it doesn't. Go down micro, shrink it down now to anti-Asian sentiment in the city and in other places. With many Asian friends, I can tell you, particularly the women, are petrified. Obviously a notorious case brings it to the fore, but they live in a constant sense that they are different, that they will be singled out, that every person of color that they walk past, man, that is a potential threat to them. It's really very, very sad what has happened. And I think that wokeness doesn't help. What the approach should be is frankness, confront it, inclusion, real inclusion, not BS, PR stuff like this.
I wonder what her position is on the Supreme Court case in regards to the Asian American students from Harvard.
That's a good question.
Who are saying that they've been discriminated against.
I mean, maybe the most discriminated against group in higher education. Arguably so the data bears that out. And, it's like, that's not even being politically correct. Can you speak honestly to that? And you haven't heard a peep.